Nothing changed. That was what made it so easy to ignore. There was no breaking point, no obvious mistake, no moment that demanded attention. Life continued exactly as it had the day before. They woke up at the usual time, followed the same routines, responded to the same expectations. From the outside, everything looks stable, functional, even successful. And when nothing appears wrong, it's hard to justify changing anything at all. Change is usually triggered by disruption, a loss, a failure, a sudden shift that forces a response. But this was different. There was no disruption, only continuation. Each day resembled the last, not identical, just similar enough to feel predictable. Predictability felt safe, comforting, efficient. It removed the need to decide. At first, that felt like relief. Fewer questions, fewer risks, fewer explanations. Life ran on autopilot, and autopilot required very little energy. There were moments when they noticed the repetition, a brief sense of déjà vu, a feeling that time was passing without leaving a mark. But those moments were easy to dismiss. After all, nothing was wrong. They told themselves this was what stability looked like: consistency, reliability, the absence of chaos. Other people were dealing with uncertainty, with loss, with upheaval. Compared to that, this felt like gratitude was required. So they stayed within the familiar. They chose what they already understood. They followed paths that had worked before. They avoided unnecessary disruption. And slowly, the unfamiliar stopped appearing at all. Opportunities didn't vanish. They simply stopped being noticed. Ideas still surfaced, but they weren't explored. They were acknowledged, then set aside for later. Later became a habit. Time passed quietly. Weeks blended together. Seasons changed without ceremony. Nothing announced the passing years. They slipped by without demanding reflection. From time to time, someone would ask a harmless question. Are you happy? Is this what you want long term? The answers came quickly, automatically. It's fine. I can't complain. It works. And those answers were true, mostly. But fine has a way of settling in. It doesn't challenge. It doesn't provoke. It doesn't inspire movement. It simply occupies space. Nothing changed. And because of that, nothing grew. Not dramatically, not noticeably, just subtly enough that the difference was easy to miss. They didn't feel regret. Regret implies awareness. This was quieter than that. It was the absence of anticipation, the dulling of curiosity, the shrinking of possibility. The future began to feel shorter, not in years, but in imagination. They planned, they prepared, they scheduled, but they rarely envisioned. There were no disasters to point to, no mistakes to undo. That made it difficult to explain the feeling. How do you name a loss when nothing was taken? Eventually, a moment arrived. Not dramatic, not life-altering. Just a pause, a small awareness that something had been slowly traded away. Not happiness, not success, but openness. They realized that comfort had quietly replaced intention, that ease had substituted for direction, that continuing forward had become a way of avoiding choice. Nothing had changed, and that had shaped everything. Because change doesn't only come from decisions, it also comes from the absence of them. Staying still is not neutral. It moves you, just more slowly, in directions you don't notice until distance has already formed. This story isn't about failure. It's about what happens when life becomes smooth enough that you stop questioning where it's going. Because the most unexpected outcomes often come from periods where nothing seems wrong at all. And sometimes the problem isn't what changed, it's what never did.